welcome to another chess drama. I haven't recorded any of this recently, but I can't name it like a major drama, but it's still something that, is worth discussing. Kateryna Lagno disputes politically biased beauty award, withdraws from Women's Grand Prix. So if you have no idea who Kateryna Lagno is, she is the wife of Alexandra Kosteniuk and also one of the strongest women grandmasters. And she's a grandmaster 2500. And recently, in one of the Grand Prix events, they get this beauty game award. And basically what happened is her game didn't get an award, and now she's trying to dispute it, basically saying that Russian players are not getting any awards. I don't want to dive deep into it. I just want to show you two games that were played, and you will write your opinion in the comments. Which game do you think should be awarded as best? I'll first show you the game that was indeed awarded the best, the most beautiful game of the tournament, and then I'll show you the game that Kateryna Lagno played against Elizabeth Baetz from Germany. So let's take a look at this game first. Alexandra Kosteniuk, who is by the way originally from Russia, now she represents Switzerland, was playing against Chinese Tan Junyi. And Alexandra plays d4, Tan Junyi plays knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5. So we get the Grünfeld defense on the board. Very, very popular opening nowadays. And generally this game was very slow, very calm, and it only came down to like last couple of moves that were, kind of beautiful, very beautiful endings, but we'll have to come all the way down. Knight f3. So generally, the theory is, knight f3 is playable, but like some of the lines go something like this way, and c5, or I'm not sure if bishop g7 is played, because I think bishop g7, yeah, and c5 doesn't matter the move order, but knight f3 is good move as well. Bishop g7, and now h4. Look, I'm not very familiar with Grünfeld. I generally don't play d4. I only play London system, or I might, put Jabal London on board. But I'm not generally familiar with the ideas. I know some of them, of course, because I'm watching top level games, but h4 is definitely the move that I see for the first time, and I can't really understand it. D takes c4, e4, yeah, of course, white wanna push h5, h6 at some point, but it's still very hard, because now let's say black are not castle, and they can just take on h5 with their knight. c5, pawn goes to d5, and now there are consistently a lot of trouble with the c4 pawn, which will be taken on the next couple of moves, because queen a4 is coming, bishop c4 is coming, there potentially knight d2, knight c4 is coming. Yeah, ideally you want to get your knight to c4 in the structures, and then put your pawn on a4, a5, and get this setup here. But we get bishop g4, pinning the knight, typical idea. Now queen goes to a4, bishop d7, queen takes c4. Now computer says b5 is best, which is something that, okay, now it says actually that castle is better, but b5, yeah, it makes sense. You kind of want to take on e4, because let's say b5, knight b5, there is bishop b5, queen b5, and knight e4. And I'm not sure what exactly happens there, but yeah, chaos as always. Queen c5. So Alexandra just decides to take the pawn, not worry about anything for now. But I want you to point out that here white are still underdeveloped, and usually we are being taught that you shouldn't be too greedy and take all the pawns you're given, because it might have a very bad joke on you. And queen c5 is played. Yeah, white are still not developed, but in this case it's not that easy to use. D takes a6, bishop e6, now knight goes to g5, attacking the bishop on e6. Knight c6, bishop f4, knight g4, e5, knight e5, rook d1, queen e8, and now knight e6, f takes a6. So the best move here is actually rook c8, which is, very hard to play. Queen e6, on the other hand, is good as well, and after bishop e2 still rook ac8 is being played, and you know, it seems like black equalized, like it's complete equality. But after f takes e6, bishop g3, rook c8, queen b5, trying to trade queens off the board, queen e7, bishop e2, rook f5, putting the rook on the same rank as the queen, potentially threatening knight f3 checks. So if now, let's say, white won a castle, unfortunately have to face knight f3, bishop f3, knight b5, rook b5, knight b5, the position is still not completely lost for white. It's actually, as you might see here, minus 0.81, so it's actually not that huge. b5 is played. b5 is played with the idea that if queen b5, knight f3, otherwise the b5 move just doesn't have any sense in it, besides setting up queen b5, knight f3, which is like, you know, like a beginner mindful move. Like you play before, oh, you know, he will take with queen and then I'll play knight f3 and win the queen. That's how the beginners basically think, because they don't even consider knight b5, bishop b5. They only want to see what happens, like what should happen in order for them to win, and they don't, you know, even calculate all the moves. But here it's just a little bit, you know, I'm just a little bit curious as to why this move is played, considering that white can take with bishop, with knight, so they have this flexibility. So knight takes b5, and as you might see, the game turned from, let's say, absolute equality on move 18 to an absolute disaster on move 21. Yeah, Kateryna had less time, but you know, it's like b5. Alright, I sometimes mess some of my games, but b5 is definitely not the way to do it. At least, you know, play maybe a6, b5, b4. Actually, I'm curious if a6 is a good move. Yeah, it's definitely better than b5, but still, you know, a huge inaccuracy. Knight b5, queen c5, and yeah, you know, Kateryna wants to set up some counterplans. She actually got a lot of it, and I think Alexandra got a little bit scared. Knight f3. So that was the whole idea, but, you know, I think I watched some of the interview of Alexandra Kosteniuk after this game, and she said she just didn't believe this might work, like knight f3, and she was like, alright, I mean, this shouldn't work at all. So b4 is played. Now queen has to go back, and now knight d6, forking the rook and forking this rook. Knight f1, knight c8, knight g3, and now we finally get the chaos, which was, you know, somewhat good for the players, as Alexandra got the beauty award. Knight b6, knight e2, king f1, but unfortunately, you know, Alexandra tried to repeat moves. Of course, after knight g3, she goes king e1. Of course, she doesn't want to get checkmated, knight f3. And the idea is that now, if, let's say, suddenly this rook turns into bishop, this is a checkmate. So there was like a potential, if some magic happened. But here, rook goes to d2, b6, king e8. And Alexandra is completely winning, and let's scroll down to the final moments of the game where it was still very interesting. Queen e7, yeah, we got this position, this, a6, queen d4, a7, and now knight b6. Blocking a8 square promotion, but here Alexandra plays queen b6, and after rook b6, she doesn't play a8 queen, which is, I mean, to me, you know, it wins easy. You have 2 pawns on the board. But she played a8 knight, and after king d6, knight b6, king e6, king b5, Kateryna simply resigned. So this is the actual game that got the most beautiful game award. And now we get to, you know, I would say more exciting game in my opinion, Lagno Kateryna and Payet's Elizabeth. So Kateryna was playing with white pieces, d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, h6, bishop f4. No, it's not the London system, but yeah, you can see the bishop on f4. Knight goes to f6, and now c5. Knight goes to h5, quite typical idea in specifically London system, but once the pawn on e3, it would be a much better move, because then, you know, you take the bishop While here, bishop can still return back and kind of keep two bishops on the board. e5, setting up counterplay, and this already, you know, creates a lot of interesting opportunities for both sides right from the beginning. It's very, very sharp. So here e4 is something that could have happened, but Kateryna chooses very, very calm e3. It takes d4. Why am I getting second line suggestions? So g6, d takes e5, bishop c5, queen b3, c6, and now castle. So now the rook is on the same file as the queen on d8, and generally, you know, white probably want to play something like e4 and try to open the center. And if white, let's say black, gonna castle, which of course will happen, you know, there is knight f3. Yeah, generally, you know, the position is playable for both sides, with both colors having a lot of opportunities, but, you know, white are in slight favor. So we get bishop e7, knight f3 on the board, and now black go knight e6. According to computer, the best move here is to open b file by playing bishop a6. Kateryna chooses to go e6. So her idea is basically to ruin black's pawn structure. F takes e6, king c2, and now there are a lot of troubles with g6 pawn. And her idea was that after bishop e6, she could simply take on b7, but now suddenly black are not worse. Queen c6, king f8. You know, black are doing this kind of artificial castle while c file is open, b file is open, and, you know, in the future it might become a huge problem for white pieces. But instead we get knight c5 after e6, and black wanna take this pawn with the knight. E takes f7, and they also want to protect this pawn. Maybe bishop e6 was the idea, but e takes f7. King f8, now queen goes to c2, attacking the pawn on g6. And after bishop f5, white played the best move, which is e4. There are 1, 2, 3 pieces attacking e4 square, while white have only 2 defenders. But e4 is still played, and after d takes e4. I mean, this move is insane. G4, that's just absolutely incredible. You play e4, you give up a pawn, and then you play g4, giving up another pawn, but your position is winning. Bishop g4, knight e5. So here again, knight e5 sacrificing. Another point of material you sacrifice in exchange. Apparently there was some knight e4, and after bishop f3 there was knight c5 threatening fork. So if bishop takes knight e6, or according to computer, queen g6, because now bishop h6, knight e6, also threats, white are completely winning. But we didn't see it on the board. Instead we saw knight e5. Again, the idea is simple: knight g6, knight h8, bishop d1, knight g6, king g7, queen d1, giving up the knight. So sacrificing exchange, gave up a knight on g6, takes, king g6. So as of right now, black are a whole rook up. Rook g1, bishop g5, h4, and now white take at least one piece back, and they will only be down in exchange. Knight f6 takes, h takes g5, queen c2, king f7, bishop c4, king f7, queen f5, and you already kinda can sense that something is going bad for black pieces. Their king is in the center, it's moving. Yeah, in case of some good defense they can potentially make a draw, but it's still very hard to do. King d6, e4, threatening the pawn on g5, king d4, rook f1, knight d7, and now bishop goes to g5, pinning this knight. And now queen e6 ideas, rook d1 ideas, rook d7, it's completely over. Rook hf8, bishop e6, rook d8, bishop d7, rook d7, e5. And now white definitely take the knight on f6, king d8, bishop f6, king c7, e6, queen d2 check, king d1, we're not afraid of any checks, rook d6, e7, brilliant move, because now let's say if rook f6 or something, just e takes f8, and if this rook, we can even play something like knight e8 to like Alexandra Kosteniuk, don't even need to take this one or promote with the queen, just, you know, knight and then take. But rook e8, bishop e5, now white take the rook, rook e7, rook d1, and black admitted their loss. Let me know in the comments which game is more beautiful according to you. In my opinion, all this, you know, beauty awards is just complete nonsense, because let's say, I know there is a festival in Zurich, I believe, or in Switzerland or in Biel, and, you know, some content creators actually made their audience, you know, basically promote this game so they would get an award, which is alright. I mean, yeah, the game is beautiful, but there are probably more beautiful games, but because of, let's say, content creation, you get the opportunity to be the best. I mean, nothing wrong with it, but it's just like, that's why I think those beauty awards, they should not really matter. But in this case, okay, they give some watches as a prize, they give other awards some money prize, and for some people it's crucial. So I think this game is more beautiful than the first one that you saw. But, you know, let me know in the comments what do you think about both of them. By the way, before I let you go, the accuracy might have played an important part here. Lagno Kateryna, 80.5, while Alexandra played with 92.4. So, in terms of quality, this game was slightly better than the game of Lagno and Pites. But in terms of course, its beauty, we're not talking about, yeah, like, you know, the most engine level game. We're talking about the beauty, and I think the beauty really was in this game specifically. So I have no idea how they selected it, but yeah, it is what it is. Lagno basically withdrew from the next Women Grand Prix tournament, but yeah, I mean, it just it is what it is. Another chess drama, not that big, but you know, it made some noise on media, on Twitter, so I was like, let's record it. But yeah, that's it for now. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.